Hey everyone, Mr. Steve169 here, and we are back at work on our Spitfire. I think we are on part 6 now. We finally got the motor back and it's painted. Now it's time to start putting it all back together. So let's go ahead and get started. And one development that we did have was that instead of 40 over like I initially thought we were going to be doing, I ended up having to go to 60 over. So that did push us back. And then we had to get the rods reconditioned. So that put us back a little bit further. So I know it's been a while, but let's go ahead and get started. First thing we're going to go ahead and do is plastic gauge our bearings here, our surfaces. All right, that's torqued down. Let's see how that plastic gauge measures.
Dada, how did you get that?
All right, our spec for this is 1/1000 to 2 thousandths. So our plastic gauge checked out. So now we're gonna go ahead. I've got 2 caps put on. I've got 1 more cap to put on, but I've got to put the thrust washers in. Thrust washers, you can see they've got a groove on one side for the oil passages, and that groove goes towards the outside of the bearing. Alright, so main caps are on, crank is hung. Now time to do the pistons. Alright, so here we are now. We're going to go ahead and start gapping the rings. We've got a nice little chart here. We are doing a street application. So we want the top ring, take the bore size of 2.96 inches, multiply it by 4.5 thousandths, gives us a gap of 13 thousandths. And the second ring, same bore size, 2.96 inches, multiplied by 3.5 thousandths, gives us a gap of 10 thousandths. So that is what we are going for. So let's go ahead and get started gapping. I've already got the rings inserted into the bores. We just need to make sure we're getting the right gap. So on this one, we want the gap to be 13 thousandths. Which we're right at 13 thousandths for that one. The third cylinder, we're actually at 14 thousandths. And the second cylinder, that one we're actually at 11 thousandths. And for the first cylinder, we're at 13 thousandths. So the first and fourth cylinders are good. So let's go ahead and swap these 2 rings to see if we need to file them. And these rings are marked with the top on them. then we use a piston to push them in evenly. Third cylinder now measures at 11 thousandths. And second cylinder now measures at Alright, so what we've done now is we've swapped the number 2 cylinder ring with the number 4. This one still measured at 13 thousandths. That one was still at 14 thousandths or 15 thousandths. Then I swapped both of these, the 3 and 4. This one was still big. That one was still small. So I filed that one down a little bit. So now we've got 1, 2, and 4 all at 13 thousandths. And the number 3, we'll have to deal with that one being 15 thousandths. So now we'll do the second ring. All right, so here we have the second ring. And to make sure I didn't mess up which ring goes where for the first set of rings, the first rings are just pushed further down into the cylinders. And ideally we want 10 thousandths according to our measurements, according to our chart. Push them down in. They all seem like they might be a little loose. 10 thousandths. So let's try 11. So these two are both 11 thousandths. These two are both 13 thousandths. So let's swap some rings around. Alright, so we have these ones measuring 13, that one measuring 11. We wanted 10, so we'll just leave it as it is. Now we'll go ahead and put the rings on the pistons. I'm going to start with the oil control ring. And these ones are not marked at the top and bottom. And these ones are marked with 2 colored ends, and those need to be touching. They do not overlap. The opening for the bottom oil control ring goes on one of these grooves. And in here we have overlapped on the ring. So we got 2 rings installed. Now I just need to get the third. Alright, so we got all 3 of the oil control rings on. Now it's time to put the compression rings on. Again, these compression rings are marked with a top and bottom. So this one, focus. Let's see, just the end of the word top there, so we want to make sure that goes on the top of the piston. And that one goes in the second ring groove. And same thing, this one. This one's going to go in the top ring groove. And with these, we want to make sure we index them about 120 degrees away from each other. Main thing with piston rings is you do not want them lining up. All right. Then I'll just repeat the process with the rest of the rings. Install the pistons into the bores. We do want to put a little bit of lube on the skirts. Go ahead and put the bearing on. And here we have the number 1 bearing cap with the bearing in it. The spec for these bolts is 45 pounds. And you always want to spin it, make sure everything spins nice and free. Which it does. On to the next one. Alright. Those ones are working. Now I'll just do it on the rest of them, and I'll come back when it's done. Alright, so we got all the pistons in. So next we'll go ahead and get the camshaft in. This is the original camshaft, but I did have it reground. So I'll put some assembly grease on it. It gets on all the lobes. So camshaft is in. I'll get the lifters and the push rods. This grease that I'm using is oil soluble, so as the car gets up to operating temperature, the grease will just dissolve into the oil. And these lifters are Parkerized. And they also have a hole drilled into them to promote better oil drainage. Now time to put the push rods in. So next we're going to go ahead and get the head on. Got the number 1 piston at top dead center. Alright, so next we're going to go ahead and get the fuel pump and the front cover put on. torque spec on this is 14 foot-pounds. My torque wrench doesn't go that low. We'll just snug them up. Here we go. And we've got the oil pressure relief fitting, which goes with the plunger on the inside. Alright, so it turns out that the front cover here is actually held on by the timing cover. So we'll go ahead and get the water pump housing put on. Seriously? got a new water pump. A couple of coolant lines. All right, so we got quite a bit done over the past few days here. Motor's coming along good, and hopefully we'll have her done here within the next couple weeks. I've got one more piece I've got to get down to the machine shop. Turns out with these new main studs, we're a little bit long, so I've got to do some milling on the front ceiling block, and we'll get that done hopefully this week and get her all done and put back together. So until next time, everybody be safe and have fun.